Welcome to the March 14, 2022 Goffstown Select Board meeting. First thing up, would you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the first thing we're going to do is swear in our new and re-elected select people. Actually, they've both been re-elected. One of each. You can sign these when we get done. Start with Kelly. Right hand. I, say your name.
I, Kelly Boyer,
Just read that.
of 22 Gorham Pond Road, Goffstown, New Hampshire, do solemnly swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and to the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof, so help me God. I, Kelly Boyer, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent on me as a Goffstown Select Board member, according to the best of my abilities, agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me God.
Okay, we'll need copies signed. And while she's doing that, you start with you. Go ahead, Collis.
I, Collis G. Adams of 110 Patty Hill Road, Goffstown, New Hampshire, do solemnly swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and to the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof, so help me God. I, Collis G. Adams, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent on me as a Goffstown Select Board member, according to the best of my abilities, agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me God.
Good. Now you guys want to sign on past that.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Need both copies? I just need one.
They will need to, the members will maintain, they'll keep one copy, and then
Okay.
I'm gonna bring one back to Kathy. Thank you.
Yep.
One's yours, one's mine. You can just sign that one. Next up would be the acceptance and correction of the minutes from 2/28/22 public and non-public.
I'll make a motion, we accept the 2/28/22 public and non-public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second. Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, one abstention. So we have one announcement, and that was effective March 8th, 2022. The Goffstown must employ load weight restrictions on spring thaw period. The Goffstown load limit has been posted on all affected roads. This is done to prevent roadway damage and to protect large infrastructure investments the town has made. Typically, the posting lasts 4 weeks from the initial posting date. Waivers will be issued by DPW on an emergency basis only, as conditions allowed. Please visit the town website for additional road posting information and updates at www.goffstown.com under the Department of Public Works, Streets and Drains Pipes. Next thing up is election of the chair. We have a nominations?
Peter, do you want to do public comment?
Not till 6:10 though. So,
I'm excited, right?
huh?
So I'm just getting excited, right? Public comment.
6:10 is public comment, so we'll just move on to the election of a chair. How's that? Is that okay, Derek?
Yeah, that's fine.
Motions? Recommendations? Will everybody speak at once? Somebody speak up.
Brown pointing.
I'll nominate Peter Georgiantis as chairman of the Board of Selectmen for this upcoming year.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Thank you for your confidence, Carlos.
You're welcome.
Okay, Derek, have you got anything you can do real quick?
Yes, I'm sure. If you switch to tab 7A in your packet, you've got your committee meeting schedule for the next 2 weeks. On Wednesday at 6:30 PM, the library trustees will be meeting.
I might have a problem with that. I'm
Okay.
supposed to be in Vermont, so.
Okay, is there anyone that can cover it for?
I can cover.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
At 7 PM, Parks and Rec will be meeting at the Parks and Rec Center.
I should be good for that.
Thank you. Next week, on Wednesday at 6:30 PM, HCC will be meeting at Grassmere Town Hall.
Got it.
And Wednesday of next week, 7 PM, Conservation here in this room at Town Hall.
Got it?
And Thursday of next week, the Planning Board will be meeting at 7 PM.
Got that as well.
All right, thank you. Your next page is your consent agenda. We do have one addition that is not in your packet. We have an employee status report for DPW seasonal labor. This is a rehire. You have the collective bargaining agreement between the town and the professional firefighters of Goffstown Local 3420. That needs a signature of the entire board. Selectwoman Boyer, your name is not on the CBA. We maintained those that were in when it was negotiated. Rights to inter for West Lawn Cemetery, section 1992, lot 180. And the item being added is an LVDP betterment assessment. This is for the water project down in Lynchfield Danis Park. This is an off-cycle property payoff in the amount of $2,745.72.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Carlos, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Question, why is it an off?
So we bill twice a year, but many times when properties go through a closing, through a transfer of ownership, they choose to pay the remaining balance off of that betterment assessment. So that, for that property, so this is a property that
Okay, that makes
most
sense.
likely went through a closing, so they paid off the entire amount of the betterment rather than stay on the twice a year billing.
Okay. So motion by Carlos, seconded by Jim. Was it Carlos or Mark?
Jim?
Jim.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none, motion passes. It is 6:10. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. You want to continue?
I can, or we can return back to select board discussion, your pleasure. You want me to just finish out the administrator's report?
Yeah, I mean, you're
Yep.
almost through with it anyway.
All right, at tab 7C, you have a draft RFP that was prepared by our IT department. This is for the network infrastructure refresh. This is for all of the town's hardware installation, configuration, and support services for the town's, basically all our switches and everything for all municipal buildings and facilities. We're just seeking approval to send this out to bid. This was part of the approved CIP budget.
Any questions?
I'll make the motion to approve the network infrastructure refresh RFP for release.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Derek,
Can I get a
is-
second first?
Second.
Seconded by Jim. Go ahead.
Derek, is there any instance we can think of where this would need to be different? People could bid on different items in this, or is it pretty
I think it's
well
IT's,
structured?
I think it's IT's department to sole this out to one vendor because for For the most part, they anticipate that the hardware is going to all be similar hardware, and it's really the installation and configuration that they're paying for. And especially right now, we have 2 IT help desk tech positions that are vacant. So coordinating multiple vendors for this is undesirable. However, I guess the board could consider that if we did get partial bids in.
I assumed we wouldn't want that, but
No.
if there's, specialists in those areas where we might, I just want to make sure they have the option if they thought that was better, but that answers that question. That's it.
Anything else? There's a motion on the floor to approve moved on to the next thing myself. Yeah, it's the network infrastructure refresh RFP.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, seeing none, motion passes.
At tab 7D, you have scheduled for this evening, this is the vote on the adoption of town ordinance. This is the traffic ordinance for the stop signs at Parker Station Road and the intersection of Gorham Pond Road, as well as Locker Road. You had 2 public hearings that were conducted on February 14th and February 28th. I provided the board copies of minutes of the February 28th meeting because we did have comment at that meeting. You also had on the table when you arrived this evening a copy of an email that was received late this afternoon from a resident on Gorham Pond Road. So I'd ask you to look that over. You also have the minutes from the Highway Safety Committee in your packet, as well as the police officer's report detailing everything that went into the recommendation from the Highway Safety Committee. So the board, you can vote no sooner than 10 days nor later than 21 days after the second public hearing. So you are within that window if you want to vote to adopt this ordinance.
Now, if I understood this right, it's more than one stop sign,
Yes.
because this person here thinks it's one stop sign. I'm in favor of that stop sign. Mark, what was the reason for putting actually it's 3 stop signs there now, right?
Stop sign.
Yeah.
Just the flow of traffic, the intersection is not, it's off a little bit, doesn't all meet up, and, again, the bushes come out, people gotta pull way out of and by then, somebody could be coming by, but just with all the complaints and everything, we went over the regulations, the requests and everything, but it's just the fact that the intersection doesn't quite all meet together and people are pulling out, and sometimes people won't see the other one coming, and so we stop everybody, make it safe, and then proceed through. I know some of the people a lot of the people are in favor of it, and there's some people that are not in favor of it, but for safety, we'll make it stop 4-way, and
There's somebody that runs through there all the time, what do you think?
Yes, happy to make comments. So this stop sign is actually at the bottom of my road at Gorham Pond. So that left turn is a turn I make often. I can tell you, coming from Gorham Pond where the stop sign currently sits, it's great that we have it there, but you do need to pull out a pretty substantial amount into the road to make a left-hand turn. And from experience coming from the other direction, from New Boston, kind of going towards the Historical Society, if you slow down to make a left-hand turn, often because people have to pull out quite a ways, it is difficult to make that left, especially if you're on a motorcycle or something like that. So I think this is my neighbor, and we didn't catch the second public hearing on this, but what we were discussing kind of as a group of people on that road is that from where our stop sign is on Gorham Pond and the stop sign on Parker Station, those would be very helpful, but I think the comments are coming from the other 2 don't really seem necessary, because the one is kind of like there's 2 houses and a dead end. So I think that's what he was referring to, is just that the other 2 don't really seem necessary.
And in the morning also, to add to that, the traffic coming from,
Riverdale?
yes, coming this towards the town is pretty heavy, and
Yeah.
just, it's a concern.
Collis?
Yeah, I go through there a lot as well. The geometry is not good. I mean, the roads are not properly aligned for it. We did hear some public comment about enforcement and speeds through there. That's a separate issue, really. I mean, in order to enforce, we need an ordinance in place first. Once we've got the ordinance in place, then we can enforce the ordinance. So this is the first step, and in my opinion, a good step towards improving conditions at that kind of difficult, weird alignment of that intersection.
Jim?
Yeah, I almost got hit by a truck taking that left off of Gorham Pond. It scared the hell out of me, and that's the one. If there's only one stop sign, it's gotta be on that, right on Parker Station. And I think there ought to be a sign further up on Parker Station Road saying stop sign ahead as well, because you can't see around that corner.
My concern is you don't put one on Locker Road, those people just pull right out no matter what, so you kinda gotta have one there. Because they just pull right out of the traffic then, so.
You know, and it doesn't take, if I may.
Go ahead.
You know, I think at each of them makes sense, and it doesn't take long for people who use that intersection to learn that everybody's gotta stop. You know, it doesn't take that long.
All right, anything else? Motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the stop signs on Parker Station Road at the intersection of Gorham Pond Road and Locker Road ordinance as it was presented during 2 required public hearings and included in the Select Board's packet in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 41:14-B.
Second.
Motion by Carl, seconded by Mark. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
And the only other item I asked, there was one other item that I'd asked to add this evening. This is an overnight travel request. Historically, departments, when we've had an overnight travel, have come to the board for pre-approval. The New Hampshire Primex, the town's property liability, unemployment, and workers' comp insurance provider, holds their risk management summit annually in May. In the last 2 years, it's been canceled, but they are holding it again this May up at the Mount Washington Resort, and DPW is requesting to send 1 employee, and the police department is requesting to send 2 employees for 1 overnight to that. They have that budgeted in their employee development and their travel lines.
And nobody from your department?
Correct.
Motion.
Motion to approve the overnight travel request for DPW and Police Department for New Hampshire Primex Risk Management Summit.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
If I might, if departments have overnight travel budgeted, is there any reason why they would need to bring that to us to go ahead and, is that really something we need to?
It's in the regs that they always,
It's not, you don't have a policy on it. I think this is something that came up probably 5 or 6 years ago. There was a request that any overnight travel or any out-of-state travel come to the board for pre-approval, and we've just continued on with that. We don't have a written policy on that.
I think it's because, if I remember right, it's because it doesn't come as a surprise when we see bills and stuff come in.
Should we
we
make that
know
a
that it's
formal,
happened.
that it just come to the select board?
We can?
Yeah.
I will alert all department heads that we'll continue that practice.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's go over to 5.2, which is appointment of a vice chair. Have Kelly, would you be the vice chair? Okay. And then we're gonna do a committee appointments. Now, what we've normally done is we've gone and said, please submit 3 departments that you would like to serve on. And then we'll go from there. If you could do that. In the meantime, until the next meeting, we'll continue on. Kelly, you're gonna cover the library anyway.
Yes. Do you want this emailed to you, or what? How do you
That's
want us
fine.
to do that? Okay.
And make sure you look at your schedules too, if you sign up for something,
We've historically had the Human Resources Committee on here, and I think there was talks about making a wellness committee. Is that something that but then we had questions about the structure of that as a whole. Is that something we're just getting rid of altogether? Or?
So we don't have an actual appointed wellness. I know that Selectman Bowen last year met with department heads to discuss wellness, but I don't believe we had a charter or any direction for that. If the board wishes to have somebody continue on that, we could, throw something together. Wellness is an employee-run committee that historically had invited a select board member to participate. I could check with Danielle to see how, oh, that's not active anymore? Yeah, that committee's no longer active, wellness, so.
But we want to continue on with the work that Chet was doing.
Yep,
So what would that be called? What's that under?
we could do that as
Human
a-
resource,
Yeah, we
or-
could do it like a human resource committee. I can throw together a quick charter for the next meeting, and just so there's a clear understanding on who's gonna participate in it. Yep, I can pull something together and bring that to you at the next meeting with
Okay.
your point.
So if you guys want to add that onto this, if somebody wants to serve on that.
Peter, if I could,
Yep, go ahead.
historically, I've served on a representative board on both the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission. And I'm willing to continue to do that, and it makes a lot of sense because the Planning Board always looks to the Conservation Commission for a recommendation before they take it up on their agenda. And the Conservation Commission meets on a Wednesday night, and the Planning Board meets the following night on a Thursday night. And I'm willing to continue to do that.
I was kind of thinking the same thing, because you have that experience, and I know there are things in the pipeline right now that they're working on that you could possibly. All right, I got marks already, so you guys,
Well, do we want to just do this now?
if you want to put some things down now.
Is Mark staying?
I'd like to stay with what I had, Kelly.
If you want the library, you can
Um,
have it.
What time is that?
Yes and no. Only reason why I say yes and no is, and I'll be right honest with you, I think because of the other committee you're serving on, fire department doing,
For the apparatus committee?
yeah, you may be better off doing CIP, because that's where that's gonna show up.
But I'm not gonna have any end result of that apparatus committee, Peter. I'm just sitting there as a figure. I'm not making a yay or nay. I'm
Well, but
just-
they're gonna come up with recommendations, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
So wouldn't it be good to have somebody that's been on the committee, the reason to explain the recommendations? Gail's over there.
I'm on
Sure.
the CIP, so yes, it would be good.
Sure, don't matter to me.
I'm just saying, you know.
I mean, for me, summertime, they meet in the summer, I'm not here, I'm camping.
Oh, that's
I mean,
true.
That's another issue, you know?
All right, I'll figure something,
Yeah.
I'll think about it.
Jim graciously gave me back the library, if that's okay with everyone.
Aw, Jim.
I'd also,
But Kelly's worked with the library
I
before,
know,
so
I know
that's a
she
smart
has,
choice.
and I've been on the library in Manchester and here for 10 years,
he's
so.
looking for something different. that's all. I'll happily take budget again, if that's
Okay.
okay.
You're gonna stay with what you got, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Check out sewer and EDC.
Jim to do one of those. Jim did CIP last year.
I did.
How'd you like that?
I like that, so.
So I'll leave you on CIP then?
I thought
Mark
you-
can't do it because
Oh,
he's
we
on
can't-
vacation.
Yeah,
He travels.
I'll be happy to do
Summer
that.
for me is,
Yeah, he travels. I get it,
Yeah.
I get it.
That's good.
The summer schedule. And then, sewer, Jim, how's that?
I love a good sewer.
Yeah,
And the joint loss, I guess I was on that all the time, but I'll stay on that if,
Yeah.
on which one, Jim?
the last one, the joint loss
Okay,
safety.
yep.
So we just need someone to, EDC. Peter, are you keeping Parks and Rec?
Yep.
And I'll take the HR committee.
Okay.
Anyone wants it?
Jim, you can do economic development also?
Yeah, I just did that, it's just stood in for Chad, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, you sat in for Chet, right?
Yeah, I did, yep.
I think we got it covered. I just gotta make up my mind who's on budget, because that's the only one that's,
You don't want me to do it?
no, I'm, you've been on budget, Mark's been on budget, you know, but we'll talk to Mark. You care?
What's that?
If she has budget?
Don't matter to me,
Who's on historic?
one way or the other. I expressed my opinion that I'd like to stay what I had, and if you feel otherwise, you do what you wanna do.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't realize you had that one.
All right, well, that's the only thing that's up in the air. We'll think about that one.
Who's historic district? I'm sorry.
Mark,
Me.
Mark's always been, right?
Yep, yep,
You're following along with that anyway.
yep.
How long you been doing that?
How long? Long time. Long time.
All right, and then let's go over, we got a good head start on that. Rules and procedures is on section 5. Seeing none of us are new people. I think this is good to have, just to, as a reference, you know. Take it out of the book, staple it, so you got it handy if you need to look something up.
Good idea.
Huh?
I thought that was good too, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the results of the election. So I think it's some of the things we have to look at now is how we're gonna proceed. Some of it's pretty much self-explanatory. I mean, DPW's gotta go out and get bids on the ventilation system.
Yeah, you'll have that later tonight.
Okay.
Adam's here to present his request for the air curtain burner.
Okay.
But then he'll be pulling the other ones. In their next section, you'll actually have a request for a deposit for the fire apparatus capital reserve fund. There are some timelines that are written into state law and when we have to make that deposit into those capital reserve funds.
Is there 2 capital reserves or just the one?
There was just the one this year that was into the fire apparatus capital reserve fund. You have again, Article 14, the CBA, you have that for signature next door. We'll arrange to have the union sign that. The only remaining item out of that was to get a small subcommittee together with the union to finalize the job description for the master firefighter. So we'll talk to the union president about that. You've got the 3 DPW projects. JS mapping flyover, we're starting to work on the RFP for that. That would be a project that we're either gonna need to do in the late fall or the early spring of next year and cover the funds so that there's
No leaves,
so
right?
there's no leaves on the trees. So we're looking at that. Crispin House, they typically send us an invoice after July 1st, and finance pays that. I guess we'd look for some direction on the Station 17 study. There was $20,000 from fund balance for that. So if you'd like, we can start to put together a scope of work on what would be involved in that and bring it forward to you for discussion at a future meeting. And I can work with the fire chief on that one.
And the last one. That was pretty much null, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it was an advisory question, so it doesn't, I guess, regardless of what the vote was, it won't change any procedures that we have for the primary in September or the general election in November.
I just have an off-the-wall question. Can someone ask for a recount of one of them? They can.
Yeah, they have until tomorrow at 5 p.m. to ask for a recount on the articles.
Any Goffstown citizen can do that?
They believe it's a petition of 10 registered voters, and I believe, speaking off the cuff, I should have had it with me, I think they had to have been on the checklist as voters at this election.
Okay.
I'm not certain on that, but it's a petition of 10 registered voters, and I believe there's a provision that they have to be shown on the checklist as have voted at this election.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a certain dollar amount they have to pay too.
There is, depending on what the disparity, the percentage of difference between the votes they have.
That's right, yeah, yeah,
There's a
okay.
fee for it.
Thank you.
Anything else on that?
No.
Okay, let's take up on the deposit of the fire apparatus account. That can be done anytime now?
Yes, yep, we have to do that within, I believe, 14 days or 20 days of town meeting vote, so.
I'll make that motion, Peter, to approve the deposit of $250,000 to the Fire Department Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund and direct the treasurer to pay said funds from the unassigned fund balance as voted, and as well as to authorize the select board chair to sign the deposit voucher.
Second.
Motion by Collis, seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Page 9. Action matrix. I did want to, is this a good time to bring up the discussion on the governor's, I don't know if he just was speaking out of turn or,
Yeah, you're under new business now. I guess we could add this now. I did, last week, Governor Sununu did make mention during a presentation about potentially suspending meals and rooms tax. There is currently not any legislation before the House or Senate proposing how that would look. I did provide that information to the board because we did budget for the almost $1.2 million in meals and rooms that come to the town. In the past, it's been about $900,000, but at the last year, as part of the 2-year budget, there was an increase, and we did plan on those funds coming in. Excuse me.
Bless you.
So if that meals and rooms tax, if a legislation does come forward that would suspend collection of that impacts the disbursement to towns and cities, I'd bring it back to you, asking you to, I guess, speak, either authorize me or to have a board vote on what position you'd like to take, because again, if we do not receive the full meals and rooms disbursement, it would have to be made up with other revenues or fund balance or additional property taxes. It's a little bit premature because it was simply a comment that he made at an event, and there is no current legislation
right.
proposing that, but I did want to make everybody aware that that is a possibility.
so let's go over to the action matrices.
So we don't need to do anything yet about that?
Not yet, we are keeping an eye on it
It's
though.
a little premature.
Yeah.
Nothing from county yet?
The police chief and I did hear back from the county administrator last week. He had some follow-up questions that we're pulling together to answer the county commissioner's questions on that.
Okay.
It sounds like they're getting close to putting it out for RFP.
And how about the revised ad hoc committee?
I'm gonna work with Selectman Adams to get an idea of what he was seeking for a revised charter, so we'll have that for you at your next meeting.
Can I ask a question?
Go
about
ahead, Jim.
The police department?
Yes.
They're putting what out for an RFP?
It sounds like the county commissioners want to go out to lease the land, long-term lease of the land.
There's several parcels, aren't there?
There's one large parcel. We've defined the area that we thought would work for the town. We provided it to them. They are gonna go out and survey. They've asked us how much road frontage we think a new police station would need, exactly what we think we'd need in terms of size.
So is the RFP gonna include any of the land that we're looking at?
Yes, because they have been approached by other, I guess, been approached by a business developer to put I guess, drive-through there. And then they've also been approached by Southern New Hampshire Services for potentially some type of housing in that area as well.
And there's only one lot, is that all one lot, or?
It's all one lot, they would need to subdivide it. They've got hundreds and hundreds of acres there.
Is it possible that something else works if that doesn't? Are you talking about any other piece of land there that, or does it even work for the police? If that one were to go away?
The one that we identified,
Yeah.
there's others along that route right there.
So
on
everything
that
is
frontage.
open,
Yeah.
everything on the
Yep.
table right now, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
So Derek, you had mentioned road frontage, and as far as the safety impact, site distance and whatnot, because we certainly don't need planning board approval.
Correct, yeah, so I've been working with the police chief to define what would be appropriate, how many entrances,
Yeah,
if it's an
okay.
entry, exit.
Yeah.
But if a commercial, business or residential goes in there, it does have to go to the planning
Oh,
board.
yeah,
It does, yes, yes.
yeah.
So it's not, just because it's county property doesn't mean they got carte blanche to put whatever they want. And we still got some equipment out of service.
Yep, you've got a couple items from fire department that are in service, and you'll see the UTV is fully back in service, and then there's other items that are listed as out of service with their anticipated return date.
Anybody got any questions? No. DPW vehicles? Is any of this stuff under warranty? You're up next, you might as well stay up here.
I wondered if that was gonna be my invite. Thank you. So unfortunately, the trash truck, the curbside trash truck is not, and the loader is not. The loader, as you may or may not know, is actually up for replacement in 2023, in the CIP for 2023. But based on the lead time of delivery from any kind of an actual award, could be the end of 23, could be 24 by the time we see a piece of heavy equipment, depending on what we go for as far as new versus used. But so just the amount of lead time that it would take to get one in, we just really didn't have a choice. And to diagnose that, to take the axle apart to find this brake issue. It's internal brakes, internal bearings. By the time it's apart, now they've got to put it back together. Either they put it back together broken, and now we have a unit that even if we wanted to get a head start on CIP, we've got to trade in, and now it's worth quite a bit less because it's got a known issue. So kind of, once it's open, it really only made sense to get it fixed. There's nothing on this year's CIP that I would want to flop with it. We have a curbside truck that is replacing our backline unit. We really don't want to get behind the eight ball with those trucks. They're so specialized, and that lead time is very long as well. So between that and the plow truck, those are the two big ticket items. I didn't want to flip-flop for the loader. So really made sense to make that repair once it was open and diagnosed,
And the
unfortunately.
cost of that repair was?
It's probably going to be about $14,000. We get it back this week. We don't have the final bill yet, but it's up there, unfortunately.
So would it be prudent to push that off another year?
It may, as we put together the CIP for next year, it might make sense. Might have a little more in-depth run through if that's what we have in mind, just to make sure that we're not, in the same position, but with just another major component failure next year. But
Yep.
and then the six-wheel truck went to Liberty and came back. They said they couldn't find the same codes that we were reading on our end with our code software. I gave it a road test and gave it a clean bill of health. So we've got it back with no repairs made. So we'll see if those codes reappear or if those were stored codes that we were somehow reading. But it was acting a little funky. So we'll keep our eye on that one. But right now it's back in house.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
And I can roll right into
Yeah,
tab 6.
why don't you go ahead, we'll get, you're up here, you might as well, got the action matrix we still gotta go through, right? Is that all set?
I think that's all of
Okay,
it.
you all done?
Yep.
Yep, let's go right into Adam.
Okay, if I may, just got one item to squeeze in at the beginning. I don't believe we've had formal introductions of our new town engineer, and he's here tonight. If Scott, you want to come on up. Scott Ozana joined us a couple weeks ago from McFarland Johnson. He's a licensed engineer. He's a resident of Goffstown, lives up, I won't tell him where he lives. In Goffstown. But I'll turn it over to Scott if you have any questions for him.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on board.
How you find working with this guy?
It's not bad yet.
Not bad yet. That's a good answer.
You're gonna have to get him a matching Primex vest.
Yes, yeah.
Have you got any questions for us, or?
I don't believe so, not right
No?
now anyway.
Okay.
It's still getting used to everything. It's a lot different than coming from like the private sector.
Indeed it is.
I was wondering why you were sitting there while listening to
And the public comment didn't get up there.
I know.
This guy's story.
How's it get started?
Good, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Don't feel the need to stick around if you want.
I'll listen.
All right, yeah. That's good. Points, checkpoint. Okay, tab, I think it's 6A in your packet. As Derek mentioned earlier, based on the town vote, the special article we had for the air curtain burner for brush burning at the transfer station passing with pretty decent support. I would recommend taking advantage of the federal GSA contract for these. Air Burners Inc. is pretty much the industry leader. There's not too many manufacturers of these anyway, but they make these air curtain incinerator units, and they've had, I think, like 2.5, maybe 3 decades worth of experience. A lot out west, about 20 years ago, they started to become more and more popular. A lot of FEMA events, so the government GSA contract has been used pretty widely. They are willing to honor the current GSA pricing, which I think, given the current climate, as far as making a decent-sized purchase, might not be a bad idea to jump on it sooner rather than later. We did have a price increase. The GSA price actually had an approved surcharge added between when we proposed the unit in CIP until the budget committee hearing.
Steel service charge?
So there was basically, asked for the commodity pricing. So in that window of time, it was, I think, $15,000 or $18,000 increase. You know, I don't want to threaten that it would go up again, but we've got a contract that's, current, and they will honor it, so I think it might not be a bad idea to jump on it.
And that's within your budget?
This is within the budget. I break down the memo a little bit, some of the extra component pieces, so I gave you the price listing for the units and a couple larger ones, but really this size is what's been recommended by the manufacturer for a municipality of our size. It's probably a little more ton per hour than we currently would need, but it gives us a little room to grow. There's an opportunity potentially down the road where we might have a revenue source. We might be able to take some money across the scale if we allow brush from other communities. I don't want to go out on that limb just yet, but once we see it in action and how long it takes us to burn through our piles as they grow up, it might make sense. I also mentioned to Derek the other day, it might make sense to put on the 23 ballot if it looks like it's going to work well. Maybe set up a special revenue fund for either just for brush burning and biochar sales, which is the byproduct. In theory, we could sell that as a soil amendment if we do it right. And potentially other transfer station activities too. We don't have one for our recycling revenues, but if we're going to do one, that discussion should be had at some point of what we want to include in that revenue fund if we do one. There's also a minor revenue opportunity. So we've got 3 potential revenue opportunities. One would be across the scale. We could receive brush from other communities or from private companies. 2 would be the biochar, which if you don't allow it to fully burn down to ash, the biochar can be sold as a soil amendment. And then the 3rd would be carbon credits. Right now there's a voluntary carbon market, but down the road in the future there may be a mandatory carbon market where people are looking to offset their own carbon usage, because this is a confirmed carbon capture technique to create this biochar. You can actually sell that to somebody else who's consuming carbon, or emitting carbon, I guess I should say. So there's a small revenue possibility there. So those three sources down the road, I think, will make it a pretty neat project to get up and running. Anyhow, the money that I had requested, the unit itself, $152,942. There's a large, it's a rake, but it's large, goes on heavy equipment to pull the biochar and the ash out of the burner. It's like a big roll-off box. The end opens up, you drive right up, and you can pull the biochar out. So that attachment price is $7,650. There's some on-site training, a 2-day training that would be recommended, and especially if we're going to try to create biochar instead of just burn down to ash. They show you how to quench it properly and kind of how to tend that and make the most of your investment. That gets us to $165,502, which is under the special article amount of $170. But there is some additional cost that's going to be coming down the road. I've got to get EPA Title V permits through DES. There's some cost associated with that from the Air Quality Division. And then at some point we need a crane when this thing arrives in about 27 weeks or so, a crane to offload on site. And then we do need a meter drop since I've opted for an electric fired fan rather than a diesel fired fan, so it'll be a little greener as well.
I have a question. $5,000 for on-site training seems like a pretty big number. Is that because it's a company out west and that part of that is travel to bring them here? What?
I think it's an all-in, I think they're in Florida.
Yeah, they're in Florida.
Yeah, Palm City, Florida. So there is some travel costs associated. I could try to pare that down a bit. He didn't have the GSA sheet, but he told me that was the current GSA pricing that they've got for the training piece.
And how many of our personnel would we be training? Did you say 2?
For something like this, I probably would want quite a few. If I could
Okay.
get, maybe I wouldn't spend 2 full days with full staff, but if I could get
You want to be able to pull other people in and make sure they're trained.
at least a dozen people, so then anybody who might be in current or in the future behind
And
a
is there any
loader.
limit from this company on how many people can attend the training?
None that they've told me.
Okay.
I can certainly ask.
Okay.
If there's a concern. They do offer a virtual option rather than the on-site training. If we really wanted to whittle that number down a little bit, we could opt for that, but it might be,
Well, that would be handy if you have a turnover in personnel and somebody new comes in, then they can take the virtual.
right.
Tour.
Maybe we'll video, maybe there's no license, so I'll video surreptitiously or borrow body cam while they're giving the training.
You mentioned the crane. What are you talking about crane?
So when it comes, it's pretty wide load type thing. So there needs to be a way to get it off the
Oh,
trailer
okay.
unit.
So, yeah.
So just a half-day rental or something of a pretty heavy-duty crane. I forget the weight of it, but it's significant, bigger than what we could lift for sure.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Kim.
Adam, do you have an anticipated cost for the crane, the permit, and the electric meter drop?
It's going to be pretty close. So the permit, off the top of my head, I think DES told me is $2,500 plus per year, plus the initial. What they have to do is it's almost like a commissioning. You get a temporary permit from them, and then they'll come and they have to actually check the particulate matter that's coming out of it, and some other sensors that are placed. I think that's another $2,000, so just the permit alone is going to get us pretty darn close to our CIP amount. So I'll have that crane rental and then a couple $100 probably for the meter drop, since we'd be right near where power currently is. But
This isn't going to require any additional personnel?
shouldn't. My hope is that it's less intensive than what we have been doing, either the stacking and the prepping for the grinding company or the burning when we
Right.
do burn. So.
Good. Okay.
Depending on the biochar piece, and how we get into that, it's slightly more labor intensive apparently to quench the fire properly and to prep the biochar. And then depending on what sort of a model, if we're just going to sell it, anybody wants to come pick it up from a pile on site, so be it. Do we want to have any preps, or do we want to work with a marketer? I'm not really positive on that piece yet. It's kind of down the road once we have it, see how much we actually generate, find out what our business model is going to be for the sales of the biochar. But
So if I picture this logistically right, this would go on that new paved
yes.
area that you built down there?
Yep.
And residents and contractors would bring the brush down, put it onto that paved area. You manipulate it, whatever you need to do, feed it to the burner, ba-boom, up it goes in smoke.
Hopefully not too much smoke.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point, right?
Up in heat, yeah.
That's the whole point, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got a couple of usable byproducts out of it.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
sounds pretty straightforward.
And in where it doesn't create that huge amounts of smoke and particulate, we can keep it up higher. You know, we try to, when we do burn, we try to keep it down in the pit, and that sort of keeps the worst of it, you know, away from the office buildings, the people that are coming to visit the transfer station, some of the abutters. But where we'll get a nice cleaner burn, we can keep it up closer to where the actual brush is brought in by residents, and then it's a lot less handling. You know, we don't have to handle it 3 times basically by the time it gets burned. So.
Thank you.
So are you looking for a motion tonight to allow the DPW director to purchase the air burner from Air Burners Inc.? Derek?
Yes.
And the total amount, well, the total amount from Air Burners Inc. is the 152, right?
It would be a 165.
Okay, the box comes from them also.
Yes,
165, 562?
Yeah.
502.
502, okay. Getting that right. So,
I'll make a motion to recommend awarding the purchase of an S220E air curtain burner, an ash rake, and training from Air Burners Inc. under GSA pricing for the amount of $165,502.
Second.
are we doing the electric?
Yeah.
Okay, just double checking.
Yep.
We have a motion on the floor by Carl, seconded by Mark. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Street excavation waiver.
Yes, so this happened, I think, the last time we worked with either sewer or water, maybe both. Sewer Commission has a contract, as you know, this summer for Louis Street, full sewer replacement, and then the drainage in that piece that they're replacing. We also added a change order that you approved a few weeks ago to replace the remaining drainage on that street so the whole thing can be reclaimed and paved. Green East and Sons, Inc. is the contractor for the Sewer Commission. Normally, our contractors, when they come in for smaller projects, they would be charged $125 for a street excavation permit plus a bond for potential damages to the right-of-way, $2.50 a square foot. In the past, you've approved waiving that application fee because it would be just going to charge the sewer. You know, they pass through to the Sewer Commission, and then we're all paying it anyway. Plus, in this case where they've got a contract that went out to bid, this project was required to have 100% performance and payment bonds. So there's really no need to hold a separate bond for street degradation when we know the whole street's going to be torn up anyhow. And they've got the bonds to cover that. So with your permission, I'd like to recommend a waiver for the street excavation fee for Grenice and Sons for the 2022 Louis Street project for $125.
I'll make that motion to approve the street excavation fee waiver for the Granzi and Sons, Inc. for the 2022 Louis Street Sewer and Drainage Project.
I'll second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Kelly. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Thank you. I'll let them know. Last in your packet, and I have 2 quick notes after that. Last in your packet, as you know, and as mentioned earlier, another article that we had this year was the truck scale replacement at DPW transfer station. That was a critical piece to get replaced based on that last inspection that we had a few months ago. So I was glad to see that passed with good support. One thing that came up, New Hampshire the Beautiful, we've used this in the past for some grants for primarily the Bobcat equipment. Anything recycling related, this New Hampshire the Beautiful group is sort of run by the beverage manufacturers, kind of as their give back to the communities that might have an impact, bottles and cans thrown out the window, that kind of thing. So they've got this grant program that if you're buying something, either equipment or infrastructure that's related to recycling, you can apply for, and we've had pretty good luck in the past, both Megan and I, getting grants for some of our Bobcats and other signage and stuff. So they've said this would be eligible if we'd like to apply. I'd certainly love to, so with the board's permission, I'll submit a grant application for their consideration for offset of at least some of the cost of the scale.
Make the motion.
Can I ask a
Go ahead.
question first? Or we'll make the motion. Adam, it says project must be fully executed within 6 months of grant notification. Is that even possible with the back Like,
that
can we,
piece
will
may
they
be
accept
tight.
a purchase order?
I think so. I seem to recall when we had the Bobcat, there was some question about that timeframe, and it seemed, whatever it was, the answer was pretty calming. To me, it didn't, they were gonna hold us to that, must
Okay.
be in the door by 6 months kind of thing, so.
Just making
I don't
sure.
think you can hold out, anybody can be held to that at this point.
I mean, it's in their grant
Pretty tough,
criteria, so
right.
just making sure. But I'll make the motion to apply for the America the Beautiful grant.
New Hampshire Beautiful,
Sorry.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And then just the 2 quick notes I promised. One, I had intended originally to get the tentative 2022 road plan to you tonight, but liquid asphalt pricing is, as you might expect, doing some funky stuff already. It's up about 15% from where we were in the fall, but that's just the March liquid number, so I presume with the events overseas primarily, we'll see some changing in the April numbers, and certainly by May, by the time we're ready to really pave.
So oil went down today.
Yeah, under $100 or
Yeah, it's
right
down
around
below
$100
$100.
Let's
barrel.
hope that continues,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I'll ride the roller coaster with the rest of us, but.
Yeah.
I've kind of started to make some changes just based on current liquid pricing, which doesn't make a huge dent in our proposed plan, but I didn't want to come to you in like a week and a half later, already have to start axing stuff, so hope at the next meeting to have a tentative list for your review. And then the other thing, while I was away last month, I had a memo in your packets about traffic signal work as part of our ongoing CIP. We're switching to video detection on the Mass Road intersections from loops. So instead of inductive loops under the pavement that get damaged and then have to be replaced every time you resurface, newest technology is a AI-enabled video, which basically just looks at a screen, and if it sees motion in the eye of the fish lens, it says, oh, there's something there, and you can actually fine-tune it a little better than a loop for bicyclists and motorcycles, so those are usually some good benefits. In my memo, I think I said that they would not have any capability to be remotely monitored. In speaking with our East Coast Signals, who does almost all of our traffic signal work, our emergency work especially, they've said that the units that you can only see from the cabinet with the laptop plugged in are about the 20-year-old tech. The current tech really, and what they recommend is the cloud-based. So if we have to reprogram an intersection, DPW can log on into a cloud-based network, see the image and change. You can actually draw on the screen. This is where I want it to see a pedestrian. This is where I want it to see a car. Granularity isn't so high definition that you're even able to read license plates, from what they tell me. Certainly the intent would not to be to leave it on all the time. We're not monitoring intersections. We wouldn't be sending a feed to PD to add to their long laundry list of things to do and monitor intersections. But the fact that it is cloud-based does allow that system in the future, once all the intersections are done, now you can use the system to coordinate your signals from a whole corridor, rather than add maybe $10,000 to $20,000 of equipment in several cabinets. You can use your software now that you've got all that cloud-based to monitor. There's different versions of whether or not you want the computer learning to self-program over time. Certainly could. I'm not sure we have enough counts on Mass Road to really warrant going nuts with it, but a nice option to have, and it certainly is a benefit. I don't want to start upgrading these cabinets and already be 20 years old on some of the older video detection stuff. I'd like to use the newer, but because I did say in that memo that they wouldn't be remotely monitored or able to be remotely monitored, I wanted to make that known, just in case anybody has any issues with it. I will shift gears, but that's kind of our current intent, if the board's okay with that.
In going with that system, you're still within your CIP monies?
We would be, yep.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions? All right. Anything else?
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Derek, you got anything else?
No, I do not.
I don't see anything else on here. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion, non-public session, RSA 91A:3, 2 for A, compensation. Anything else, or is that it?
No, that's it.
Second. Mark?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
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 That'll conclude tonight's public portion of the select board meeting. Thank you for watching.